You sitting there getting questioned by a nigga that still get a pension from the police department when he didn't even work at the police department. He retired because he got hurt, but was on his feet at death row for 10 years. This nigga running around to the Soul Train Awards. He doing all this work at death row, but told the Compton Police Department that he was enabled to work. How does that work? How does a guy tells the Compton Police Department he's enabled to work, leave, and then go do security and running around with a bunch of Bloods and Crips surrounded by criminals and still gets a pension to this day? But he said he was injured. He couldn't work because he hurt his foot, but he ran around the world with Suge Knight. How does that work? Are they paying him for something else? Ah. Yeah, but he could pull up to Keefe D's shop with a briefcase with his daddy and walk in there, right? But his feet hurt. But he could walk up to Edie Fall's office and meet up with Orlando Anderson and give him a check to go testify for Suge after he called his father and told his father, yeah, Orlando Anderson shot Tupac. Let's give him $60,000. How does that work? Ain't that witness tampering? How does that work? You call your father and accuse Orlando Anderson of murdering Tupac, and then you go meet up with Orlando Anderson and Keefe D and give him money after Tupac is dead. And then you go and testify in the grand jury that Keefe D killed Tupac in the car with Orlando Anderson, but you just gave him money. How does Las Vegas Metro Police Department explain that? Y'all got to do testifying in the grand jury that this guy is responsible for killing Tupac, but he paid the money after the hit was done? Las Vegas Metro Police Department, come here. Put your ear to the speaker. How do you allow Reggie Wright Jr. to testify in the grand jury and lie on Keefe D when he's on YouTube saying that he know that Keefe D did not pull a gun at the Soul Train Awards? It was C. Gutter when he found out the truth before he testified in the grand jury, but still went in the grand jury and testified that Keefe D pulled the gun at the Soul Train Awards. That's lying under oath, isn't it, LA, Las Vegas Metro Police Department prosecutors? Isn't that lying in the grand jury if he's on his channel saying, oh, Keefe D ain't pull a gun out at the Soul Train Awards, that was C. Gutter. Yeah, Gene told me that, yeah. So he knows it was C. Gutter that pulled the gun at the Soul Train Awards. C. Gutter does interviews saying that he pulled the gun, right? Way before the grand jury. And Reggie Wright Jr. goes to the grand jury and testify at the Las Vegas Metro Police Department and say Keefe D pulled the gun at the Soul Train Awards, knowingly already said on his channel that Keefe D didn't do it, but went after he already said he knew that Keefe D didn't do it and knew and named the guy who did it and testified in the grand jury that Keefe D did it. Is that not lying under oath? Las Vegas Metro Police Department? But y'all want a conviction that bad that y'all will allow him to get on the stand and lie in a grand jury? And how does a felon, a convicted felon, fresh off of money laundering, federally convicted, drug trafficking, becomes a credible witness in a grand jury? Las Vegas Metro Police Department, please explain that to me. How does a convicted felon who's convicted for money laundering and drug trafficking in several states becomes a credible witness in a grand jury? Y'all need a conviction that bad that y'all will get a person that is a federally convicted felon to lead a grand jury who's knowingly lying and saying Keefe D pointed a gun at the Soul Train Awards, but on his channel states that it wasn't Keefe D before the grand jury. And y'all let that fly? And the people are supposed to trust y'all? It's public knowledge. The video is up. How is he leading the grand jury? How can he lie in the grand jury? Isn't that a crime? And if the defense is watching, you can hit me up. I will send you the video because he knowingly said that he know that Keefe D didn't pull that gun at the Soul Train Awards, that it was C. Gutter, and then turned around and testified in the grand jury knowing that Keefe D didn't do it, but sat there and lied in the grand jury. I know y'all want a conviction, but please be fair because we want a conviction too. But y'all need to start really looking at the people that's sitting there lying to you. It's public record. The videos are there. And you're going to have the defense eat y'all up when Reggie Wright Jr. gets on the stand at this trial. How do you use him as a witness in the grand jury when he met with him and Orlando Anderson and paid them $60,000? Question: Las Vegas Metro Police Department prosecutors, how do you use Reggie Wright Jr. as a witness in the Dwayne Davis Keefe D trial when he met with Orlando Anderson and Keefe D After Tupac was murdered, after he called his father and told his father Orlando Anderson was the shooter, but he sat down and met with him and gave him money, $60,000 to testify for Suge Knight. How does that work? You call your father and say Orlando Anderson killed Tupac. And then y'all sitting down, me and him giving him money? How does that work? Now, either all of us out here are dumb or somebody's not smart. And I don't think all of us out here are dumb. How does that work? How does him and his father go to Keefe D's shop with a suitcase and come out with nothing? With the Compton PD narcotics squad sitting there watching. Before Tupac get killed. And then after Tupac get killed, they sit down and they meet with Keefe D and Orlando Anderson and give them money. The guy that they said killed Tupac, the head of Death Row Security, and several Compton Police Department officers, all in one room in a lawyer's office, giving these guys money. And he's testifying for y'all? Come on, man. How does that work? Please let us know how that worked. We'll be waiting. Choke No Joke. Hit the like, subscribe to the channel. Somebody make sense out of this. Do it make sense to anybody watching? That the dude who called his father, who was the Compton police head of the gang unit, called his father and said Orlando Anderson just shot Tupac. Tupac dies. And several weeks later, they sitting down with Orlando and Keefe D, giving them money. And then the same guy is setting up Keefe D to do interviews on Vlad, Cam Capone, Art of Dialogue, setting them up, getting money to being a PR person for the same guy that he said killed Tupac. How does that work? Yeah. Y'all have a blessed night. One.